What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Singing the Tea. I'm your host, Dustin, singer, actor L, and you already know. Sometimes I sing, sometimes I give you all the reality TV tea, but it's always going to be what you want, and it's always going to be what you need. And listen, I'm coming back to you with another episode of Married to Medicine, Season 11, Episode 14, Choosing Sides. Yes, I feel like that's what I named my last review. Anyway, um, y'all already know Married to Medicine is my favorite show on Bravo. Well, Atlanta is back. I haven't watched it yet, but we're gonna get into that tonight as well. So, but Married to Medicine is my favorite show. It's so good. I love it. And this episode wasn't like the most like high energy or the most like chaotic episode, but it was really good and it gave us some really good things to talk about and to unpack. So we're gonna sit here for a minute. We're gonna really break this episode down because it was a good one. It was a really, really good episode. Now, if you are new here, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share with a family member, share with a friend, share with the person next to you in the cubicle. Listen, and if you are returning, welcome back, family. Welcome back, cousins. I appreciate y'all. So let's jump in. Now, you already know I love the opening scenes with Married to Medicine because they're typically very organic. And speaking of organic, baby, because listen, that body looks like it is made by Jesus. Toya, your body is a 10, baby. The body is T. Body is T. Body is T. Toya looks so good. I wish I had like the clips to put in here. I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to work with one of my friends and we're going to figure out how to get the clips in so I can like give y'all a little 1-2 to let you know what I'm talking about so you can see it in the screen. But she looked amazing. And it was so funny when she walked upstairs and she was talking to her son like, oh, your weave is here. That was good to me. Now, I used to have long hair. I used to have braids and I had dreads in a different moment in my life. And I ain't never really have to put no extensions in. That was just me. But cool for them for having to do it. Listen, if you see there's a need, go ahead and get it, child. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Go ahead and throw a little extra in there. It ain't never hurt nobody. Um, but yes, I did have long hair for the people looking like, you have long hair? Did. Absolutely. I still kept it. I said, I might throw it in here one of these days. Who knows? But listen, God don't give you everything. He blessed me with the hair for the moment of time, and he quickly took it away. But that's all right. This ain't about me. This is about these Married to Medicine folks. Now, this next clip was so funny when Dr. Heavenly and Dr. Damon were talking about Alora and her spending habits. And they were like, you know what? Let's call her. Let's call her on the phone. And the girl said, hey, mama, this is not a good time, baby. When I tell you that was good to me, that is something that I would do in a minute. You call me, hey, baby, this is not a good time. I will talk to you later. I will do that to my mom in a minute. Hey, girl, this is not the time to be talking. I will call you later when I'm at a different location, but I cannot speak to you right now. But that was really, really, really funny. So next up, we see Dr. Simone showing up to Dr. Jackie's office with lunch. And it's good to see these scenes too, because that used to be like their thing. So it's good to see them back into that. And they're having a conversation. And Simone shaded Jackie, and that was good to me. Jackie was like, Simone, do you still send these cards out? You remember this? Congratulations, you just had a boy, you just had a girl. Simone said, no, I don't have to send those out because I'm in the room when they have the baby and I tell them in person. Simone, that was shade, but that was good. That was really, really, really good. But you know what? Dr. Jackie, I ain't mad at you because if you got it like that, baby, do it. That's what's up. Jackie said, you know what? I don't even got to be in the room for people having babies. Babies just come flying out. I don't. The mama don't even got to be in the room, baby. You go to Dr. Jackie, baby. You just walk in the room, your baby there. You don't even realize the baby ain't in you no more. Dr. Jackie be having it going on. So they started having a conversation about Jackie meeting up with Phaedra, and Phaedra cut the check, y'all. She gave her the $40K that they needed for the Med Gala. So that's really, really dope that she gave her the money. Now I know in real time they were talking about Phaedra not giving them the money. So I don't know if she really did give them the money, or like we're gonna hear later, like maybe on her reunion that she didn't. I feel like she did. Hopefully she did. But yeah, Phaedra said, listen, she'll never write no check that her behind can cash, and that's a lot of rump, if you know what I mean. So I'm sure she could cash it. Now, Phaedra is saying that she's done with the group, and a big piece of her being done is essentially the way that Apollo was brought around this season. Now, Phaedra, this is where you have to have a little bit of accountability with us, right? Because, and Simone brings us up, like, you brought him to New York, for the reunion, you brought him. You knew that he was coming to the Sandbar. You knew he was going to be there. and you say that he gets jealous when he sees you with other men, so why would you bring Shaq around knowing one that he's his friend, and two, you know how he gets. Does she owe him anything? Absolutely not. She doesn't owe him a thing. But it is confusing for the viewers because you were well aware, and if you knew that this man had an issue with that, then you would not have invited Shaq, or you would have handled it differently. So it's a little weird that that seems to be the issue with you. But hey, she's gone, y'all. She is gone. It's all right. We ain't gonna see Phaedra on this show no more, but we will see her on Real Housewives of Atlanta, which I'm so ready to watch and get into. So they start talking about Dr. Greg pressing charges and essentially how the group can move forward. Like I said, that is the topic of this episode, moving forward. Whose side are we going to choose? That's kind of like the theme of this episode. And I think that Greg has really put the group in like an awkward predicament. And he wasn't in it alone, but the things that he's done since that situation happened on the sandbar, it's not helping the situation for the group to grow and the group to move forward. So, they're having that conversation, and Simone tells DrJackie that, Greg done wrote a song, baby. He had to get his clap back. He had to turn it to Kendrick Lamar and Drake, baby. He had to get his song out. And let me tell y'all something. I want to move forward from this song. I don't ever want this man to do nothing else with this song. Don't ever pick up a guitar, microphone, nothing, because he is a fool. He is a fool for thinking that. And we ain't a fool in love. He might be a sweet tea, might be, but we not no fools in love, baby, because he shouldn't have ever picked up that microphone, guitar, speaker, or camera. We don't want it. We don't need to see it ever again. And please do not perform it live at the reunion. We are good to go. Um, so y'all, after we leave that scene with DrJackie and Dr. Simone, we finally get the sit down between DrHeavenly and DrContessa. It only took us, 14 episodes to get here for them to actually have a sit down. And it started off really nice. It was good to see them. They're rehashing their thing of how they were able to just kind of coexist for a while. So I think it's good that they were able to just kind of coexist and just be around each other's presence before they were able to move forward. So it's good to see them moving forward in the right direction. But they kind of talk about their issues, and I felt like we were going to have a little bit of a setback, but we kind of different. We kind of didn't, excuse me. And I feel like Heavenly feels like they both played a part. So Heavenly is saying that they both played a part in that situation, and I think it's just perspective thinking. I think, for instance, Dr. Contessa is saying like the issue was when Dr. Heavenly said my husband was abusive. Dr. Heavenly is saying, well, you said that it was a volatile situation. So I feel like it's kind of one of those things that's up in the air. And Heavenly didn't just say that, she answered a question to it. When she was asked a question, physically, no, verbally, yes. So that's what she was saying. But once again, I can understand where Contessa, by that being her husband, she can be upset. And also, too, Heavenly was saying, she's telling her, if you are going to stay with your husband, just hush. Like, girl, just hush and just sit there and enjoy the moment. And don't make a bigger deal out of it because you can't go back from certain things once certain things are said. So I can understand, once again, the perspective thinking on that particular situation when it comes to those two ladies. So I'm glad that they were able to move forward. I'm glad that they are just able to just let bygones be bygones and move on from the situation, because we're over it. Let's be real. All of us are over it. We're tired of rehashing this situation with them. Please be done. You don't have to be best friends. Just be cordial. Just be cool so we can move on, because we tired. Now, Dr. Contessa is telling us that she is going to have a health fair because she is like the ambassador of diabetes awareness. And that's really, really, really cool. I love when they have these events, when they try to get, or they don't try, where they bring the community in and they really service the community. It's phenomenal. To see those Black doctors doing that, always will love that when they do their work. But forever be grateful and forever love that for sure. Now, Heavenly, while they're having their lunch, is saying that she feels like that is an irresponsible thing for Dr. Contessa to have this event because she wants to invite everybody. So not irresponsible that she's having the event, but irresponsible in the fact that she's wanting to invite everybody and thinking that everybody's just going to move forward when we know that Dr. Greg has pressed charges on King. It's a tough situation for them to do that. So, Contessa, I understand your thought process. We always feel like people should be able to put their differences aside for the greater good. We probably don't think it's going to happen, though, right? Which we see later, it doesn't. So we're going to get into that. So after they're done having their lunch, and that food looked good when they was eating too. After they're done having their lunch, we swing over to Dr. Eugene, who broke his toes because Toya and the boys don't know how to charge up the electric scooter and all that. So he done broke his toes. Y'all, I remember I broke my toes when I was in college. Let me tell y'all a little story. We got some time. I remember I had went out. I had some friends. Shout out to Tam. Tam had came in town. I went to go hang out with Tam, aka roommate. So we all hanging out, and I went back to my house. So my nephew had some toys, right? And I cut the lights off. There was like little puzzles, and like when you put the puzzle piece in, it would make a noise. Y'all, I heard growling. I cut them lights off, and I just heard growling. Now we ain't had no pets in the house, baby. So I thought something was coming after me. I thought a demon or something had came in the house, baby. Y'all, I kicked the coffee table and dragged it. When I made it to my room, my toes looked like this. Child broke all them toes, but it's all right. We healed today. We living another day. But yeah, that's how I broke my toes. So Eugene, I understand the pain that you were going in or you are going through, good sir. Now, Toya is rehashing her lunch with Sweet Tea to Dr. Eugene, and she just telling him how she feels like Sweet Tea could hold herself accountable, and she just feels like Sweet Tea needs to own it. And I feel like a lot of us feel that way. Sometimes in these reality TV spaces, a lot of them have a hard time just simply saying, you know what, I messed up, I was wrong. And it happens so far and few in between when it comes to a lot of these spaces that when those characters do, like we typically gravitate to them. Like for instance, like a DrJackie. Don't get me wrong, she has moments, but she's human. Another really good reality TV star that holds themselves accountable is Kimmy from Love and Marriage Huntsville. So there are some characters who really have a good job of doing that, but Sweet Tea could take a page out of their book and just only get a little bit more. But also, I get where she's standing by her man, so I can understand both sides of the perspective. Now, Eugene gave a very interesting perspective on how Sweet Tea and Dr. Greg might feel because everybody wasn't always in a good place with Quad. And for the most part, everybody has been in a good space with Sweet Tea until this event just happened. And Greg for the most part. So they might feel like they're on the outside and not understanding why, because they're like, hey, we haven't done anything to the group. Why are we being ostracized when y'all see I use that big word? Why are we being ostracized when we haven't done anything? Um, so it's a perspective thinking. Once again, everybody needs to own their part. Everybody needs to own their part, and that's the only way you can truly move forward, with this group. Now, after we leave the Dr. Eugene and Dr. Toya. Y'all know I love me some Dr. Toya, body doctor. We see Quad and King. Quad is preparing, and I thought Quad. I was like, "Oh, why Quad ain't got no clothes on over there slaving over that stove?" But and Miss Quad, not you ordering takeout. You the cooking queen, girl. I thought you would been up there made some lobster mac and cheese. Y'all remember Quad used to make lobster mac and cheese down. That I feel like that's the only thing she used to make was lobster mac and cheese, and a little broccolini or something. But Quad is planning a date night at her house for King, and he gets over there and they get out to the pool. Now, once again, I feel like this episode is just perspective thinking. Like it's so many different ends of the spectrum of how you can take this particular episode. She wants him to move in, right, into her house. He doesn't feel comfortable moving into her space. I get both sides. She worked hard to get that house. That house is her sanctuary. That house is her house that she bought herself after her divorce. So I can understand how she's like, no, I don't want to give up my house. This is my safe haven. But quite at the same time, where he's coming from, and he didn't verbalize it this way. This is how I would feel if I was in that space. Yes, Quad, that is your home. So he will probably always feel like a guest in your home, even if you do allow him the space, because you are currently living in it, and you're going to have to make slight adjustments for him to be in that space. Also, too, how can you incorporate him in your home? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you have your aesthetic, you have how your home is decorated. Are you going to allow him to decorate some of the spaces? You see how it can kind of be one of those things where he feels like the best option might be for us to, okay, you have your home, I have my home, and maybe we find something together that's ours. So I can get that as well. I can understand both heads of the coin on that particular statement. I think that he could have verbalized it better. Honestly, both of y'all could have just verbalized yourselves better. I don't think that either one of you were coming from a malicious place. I think that is just perspective thinking, and I can understand where both of y'all are coming from. Therapy. Therapy is going to be the best thing to help you get through this situation. But I can understand both heads of the coin. Now, we see Dr. Simone, showing up to her son's place, and y'all, it was so funny when they didn't answer the door. But when she showing up to the place, and listen, that house is nasty. That house just looked nasty. I'm sorry, it looked like it's nasty, like they don't ever clean. They could hire some cleaners. And she gives them some choices of moving back in, or they can start taking care of the home. I would say this, and Dr. Simone, I'm not talking about your sons, because I think you've done a phenomenal job raising your children. When she was breaking down the rent situation and essentially how it would be like about $1,200 for each one, the oldest one I don't think is in school anymore. I don't think. I think the younger one is. I can understand him not being able to pay the rent, but the older one, I'm like, and she was like, y'all don't have enough to cover that. He not making enough to cover $1,200. So what is it that he does? Because I feel like if he's working a couple of hours a week, he can get a couple of $100. So I don't know. I think it's something to say. Like, it's an amazing thing when you're able to help your children in whatever situation that you're in. And I also look at it this way: when you have kids, they didn't ask to come here. You had them. So of course you want to help them, but another thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we're teaching and instilling in them strong foundation that when they are on their own, they're able to maintain and sustain on their own. And I feel like they just don't have that just yet for some reason. I think because they always know that they'll have you as a safety net. So it's great that they do have you as a safety net, but it's time for them to get up, get out, and get something, because I don't know. I just feel like they're using you a little bit too much, and I also don't feel like they're taking you serious. With the way that they're operating in space, the least that they could do is keep the house clean. I'm sorry, that's the least that they could do. And they got all that liquor. They got $1,200. They got enough to make $1,200. All that liquor over there in that corner. Trust me, they got it. Cause some of them bottles are definitely a good $89 a piece. Trust me, cause I drank. Okay. But yeah, it's time for y'all to get some of that together. Now, I will say this: the next event with Contessa and the health fair. I love the health fair. I think it was really, really cool. I was a little confused because it seemed like the event was already happening and maybe she just kind of was a part of it. It was a little confusing there. But overall, really, really love when they do these events. Now, we see Dr. Damon and DrHeavenly showing up to the event, and they're having a conversation about King and just about, Dr. Damon says that he feels like King is wanting peace. Like, King is wanting peace. He doesn't want to go back and forth with Greg. DrHeavenly feels like Dr. Greg doesn't like seeing King around Quad. I get it. I understand both perspectives that way. So it's just, once again, perspective thinking, y'all. This was that episode, just giving us different ways to think about every situation. So we see Jackie and Quad show up to the event, and it looks like a nice event. It was funny when Quad was talking about her scrubs, and DrContessa was like, "Listen, I don't be wanting to wear scrubs in my regular 9 to 5." Y'all know what's funny? I remember I did a show, and we had to wear scrubs for it. And when I tell you, I used to wear them scrubs out. I loved those scrubs. So scrubs are very comfortable. I might go get me a little pair just so I can lounge around in them in the house. So I can feel like a doctor, a nurse or something real important. But seeing all the doctors do their thing, I love to see that. We see Dr. Mimi and Steve show up as well, and seeing Steve out there playing ball with the guys, that was really, really nice as well. Um, funny. Dr. Damon was like, he wasn't good at football. He's good at jujitsu and wrestling and stuff. And he said, wrestling has helped him carry his wife. And all I could think about is Dr. Damon up in there carrying Dr. Heavenly like Stone Cold Steve Austin or something, just all across the ring and just body slamming her. I didn't need to know none of that, Dr. Damon, but good for y'all. I love that you were able to lift her up. That lift her up in more ways than one. Okay, we love that, Dr. Damon. So the ladies talk with Dr. Contessa, and she feels like Greg and Sweet Tea should be able to be around. She feels like they should choose them, just like they're choosing Quad at some of these events. And Quad is not really feeling that. And I would say that they're giving Quad mixed signals here, because on the previous event, Contessa, you were like, "Oh, we're choosing you, Quad. We're choosing you, Quad." But then you're also choosing Sweet Tea too, which there's nothing wrong with it. I think the thing is, you could have let Quad know that before she came, if that was going to be a scenario. So I think that was the thing that you should have done there. But then we see Dr. Heavenly and Dr. Contessa start to get into it. And it was just like, why are y'all even getting it? It has nothing to do with you, Dr. Heavenly. Like, why are you getting into this? I understand you ride with Quad, but we didn't need you to say anything at that moment. And you can tell Dr. Jackie's like, girl, hush. Like, we just didn't need you to say anything. So we are glad that they didn't escalate to the places that we know that both of them could truly go. But yeah, it didn't escalate too much more, so we love to see that. But I feel like Dr. Contessa and Dr. Heavenly are just like oil and vinegar. They just are never going to mix well. Sometimes both of them go great on a salad, but if it's just sitting over there in the jar, they would definitely separate. Now, Quad is talking about, because Dr. Contessa was saying, hey, Quad, this is your safe space, this is your safe haven. But Quad is saying her safe space and King is not allowed to be there because of what her ex did. So I can understand her not necessarily wanting to be around them without him being there, because it kind of comes off like, oh, well, you know what? I got your man off the show. So I can kind of get her not wanting to be around that. But she lets it be known when they show up, she is out the door, and her and Dr. Heavenly and Dr. Damon, they leave when they show up. Now, the guys are outside and they're having a conversation, and they're talking about how King just essentially wants to move forward. He wants to put the things behind them, but Greg is still holding on to this issue, and they don't feel like it's fair that Greg is doing this because it is essentially causing dissension in the group. And it's not cool. So when Greg gets there, we see Dr. Greg and the guys go outside, and Sweet Tea and the doctors are having a conversation inside. And listen, they ask Sweet Tea if this is her safe space, and she says mentally, she doesn't feel like this is always a safe space. And I can get where she's coming from, because I feel like she gets a lot of heat from so many different areas of this group. But sometimes some of it is sometimes self-induced, Sweet Tea. I will say some of it is self-induced for you sometimes because of just how you put yourself in a lot of these situations. So there's going to be that when it comes to some of those situations. It's going to be kind of how you carry yourself. I think that you sometimes will interject yourself in some of these situations. And if you would just hang out on the sidelines, you maybe wouldn't get as much heat as you do. Especially when it comes to Dr. Heavenly. Like, just don't talk to her. You don't have to interject yourself in a situation if she's not talking to you about something. Just leave her be. So Mimi is asking her how we can help her manage her emotions. Child, boom. Let's talk about these guys outside, because I feel like that's where I really want to go. That's what I really want to talk about. So the guys are outside and they're having a conversation with Dr. Greg about the whole charges. And Steve is asking him like, hey, in order for this group to move forward, are you willing to drop those charges? And Greg was saying, like, listen, it was something that was done to me. And I felt like the guys are kind of like, well, what was done to you? Because nothing was truly done. Y'all had an argument. It kind of escalated, but it didn't get physical. Nothing really happened. And we feel like you were holding on to this, and it's affecting other relationships in this group. And it really is, because especially next episode, we're going to get into it, and we're going to see like how choosing the sides is putting a lot of people in uncomfortable situations. So it's not fair to the group that he's holding on to this, because King is ready to move forward. King wants to have a conversation so that they can squash it and move on. And I would say this, Greg, you can be mad for as long as you want to be mad. I think the hard thing that a lot of them are The hard pill that everybody's trying to swallow is like, Greg, you have to hold yourself responsible too. You just didn't arrive here just out of the blue skies. Like, you played a part in this as well, and you're not owning it. And that's what a lot of the people are having the issue. So he also doesn't feel like the guys are truly supporting him. I feel like they support you being mad at him, but they don't support you going to possibly get this man like time in jail or get him to pay fines. Like, they don't support you doing all of that because it didn't give all of that. So, Greg, they support you to a certain extent, but you also got to own your part in that whole situation also. So, y'all, that is the review of Married to Medicine. It was a great episode. Like I said, it was more of a deep one, just trying to get us to understand the different perspectives. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. So we should have Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is going to be the first episode of that season dropping. So we should have that dropping tonight as well. But with that being said, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share with a family member, share with a friend. And I will see y'all next time for another episode of Singing the Team. Have a good one, everybody.